Today's episode is proudly sponsored by Hellbender Vinyl. For those of you that don't know, Hellbender is a vinyl record pressing plant located right here in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, doing high quality, professional, top of the line record pressing, baby. We finally got one here. There aren't very many in the world, let alone the country, and to have one right under our nose is an insane resource. So if you are a musician looking to get some stuff pressed to wax, I highly recommend checking out the folks over at Hellbender. Tell them Sykes sent you. I've always wanted to say that. Without further ado, let's get into today's episode. Sit back, relax, and let's start the beats. Okay, so we are in a bit of a predicament.
Okay.
Right?
Is this one of those escape rooms that we accidentally signed up for?
Where it's always a little bit complicated sometimes to navigate conversations with people who have already been on the podcast.
Right.
Because we've already told the stories.
Our origin
we've done
story.
The things, we've said all that. So this is the sequel.
Okay.
And a sequel, I mean,
Right.
there's always a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
On
Could
the
be.
sequel.
There could be.
Right?
There always is, yeah.
But I feel like the best way to continue any story is to give a short follow-up to the first. So for anyone that is not familiar or does not know,
Previously on.
Start the Beat, what do we want people returning or new to know about rock and roll sensations, Dream the Heavy?
Well, that's exciting.
Paul? Oh, go ahead.
Me? Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
you first. I started last time.
You did. You started it.
Yep.
Dream the Heavy is a Pittsburgh-based genre fluid rock and roll band comprised of people from Oakland, California, Vermont, Atlanta, Pennsylvania, and Pittsburgh. And we recently were given the title of Album of the Year this year. It's been a great year.
It's been a
real busy year. We can get into that.
Yep.
This is wrapping up year 3.
Yep.
And if you don't know, please make yourself in the know. And there you go. Yeah, that's all I'm going to say right now.
Okay.
What else?
I think at this point we've played Pittsburgh and kind of been out in this community quite a bit. People either know of us, have heard us, or have just gotten sick of us as well. So for anybody, who's not familiar, we're on all the social things,
Yeah.
And if you see us out, just say hi. We're very, very approachable, very sociable. So yeah, just come say what's up.
Yeah. Definitely known as a live band to see. Like, it's a really good excite, a lot of energy. You can watch that on all your YouTube and such like that too, to get a feel of what you're getting into. But come see live music. It's the best way.
Yeah, I think live music is really important, especially in guitar-driven sorts of things, regardless of whatever subgenre you want to label it as. And something that I've noticed over the course of the past, decade, 2 decades, it's only getting worse and worse, is it feels like on the surface level, because of social media in a lot of ways, that it is not as important. I feel like a lot of people sometimes forget that the live music experience is why we do this. And I talk to so many bands on the podcast, get caught up in the promotional stuff, the recording stuff, all of these things that are super important. But it's like, I mean, if you're a guitar band, it's all about just playing good shows. And to me, I don't know. I don't have it all fucking figured out myself, but it seems like if you are a band and you want to figure out how to be successful, what's the trick? Just be a good live performer. That's like the most important fucking thing as far as I'm concerned. Everything else, I mean, it helps. Yeah, it helps if you have some nice photos and decent recordings and a good social media following, but if you can't
That's
fucking
foreplay.
if you can't rip live, then
why even bother?
why
Get
bother?
kicked out of bed.
Yeah.
That's true. It's a really good point, and that's really interesting what you said. About that. Maybe that is starting to fall to the wayside. People, people aren't remembering that's the reason you do it. I don't know.
I think on the
Well, I mean, there are many reasons to do it, but man, that's a great thing to experience.
I feel like in a lot of ways
And give.
For us sitting at this table and for anybody listening to this, it probably seems a little preaching to the choir because we're all underground people that get this.
Mm-hmm.
But when we're talking about how do you break through the ceiling, how do you get basically, for lack of a better word, like the normal, not DIY underground music people to pay attention to you. Right. And it's like, well, you got to play live.
Yeah.
But how do you get them to the weirdo, dusty rooms that you're playing in? That's another question. I have no idea how to do that. But one thing that I do think helps is creating events that are more than just like, oh, this is collective band practice for everyone.
Yeah.
Making something feel like something special, something that is more than just a show. It is an event.
You mean something like the Winter Wonder Ball?
Yes, exactly. Quick segue into that, and then we'll keep talking more about the band. But yes, I am intentionally guiding us.
Yeah, that's
about the Winter Wonder Ball.
We followed the path. Yeah.
And Paul Dean Price III, everybody. By the way, Paul, we were joking the other day. We shot a promotional video for the Winter Wonder Ball at the studio, and the way he was dressed and he was storytelling. And he was, what were we referring to as Papa Wunderbar?
Yeah.
It was Papa like Father Christmas.
Wonderball.
Fasha Wunderbar.
I don't mind being known as having wonder balls. That's perfectly okay with me. It was. Yeah. I'm not going to segue into it. It's with the Wonderball thing. Last year we worked our collective butts off for it.
Yeah, and I guess we probably should explain that, like, the Winter Wonder Ball, this is the second year of it.
This is the second year.
Is an event that is produced and curated by yourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And you have bands, you have vendors, artists, tattoos.
This year, tattoos,
all sorts of delinquent riffraff.
God, I
but
love
it's a beautiful thing.
Thank you.
It is.
And we're lucky to have you
community.
involved with it again.
Hey, I'm happy to be. Yeah, I'm happy to be here. So this is the second year that you are doing this. It is happening December 21st.
Yep, the
Spirit
solstice.
Hall.
That is the solstice.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and this year it's at Spirit. Last year was at Mr. Smalls. This year it's at Spirit Lodge. Yeah. It's on the winter solstice finally this year, so it's perfect.
Hell yeah! And I have been promoting the show for a while now at this point. This is going to be the last episode of everybody from, because I'm interviewing all of the bands and stuff like that. So at this point, people that tune into the show regularly are probably fucking sick of me talking about it.
You think they're sick of you talking about it? Holy crap.
Just as a final reminder, December 21st, Winter Wonder Ball, hosted by me. You know the rest of the details.
Yes.
But I'm excited to be a part of it. Thanks for having me host the event. I have various outfit ideas I'm trying to figure out.
Please.
We've been talking about it.
It's great.
I'm trying to figure out what angle I want to go in. We don't got to talk about that now. But because this is not a fashion podcast, I feel like I'll gladly sit down with either one of you, particularly TK. Sometime we can have a fashion podcast.
Okay.
Like me, you, and like Josh from God Hates Unicorns.
Yes. You talk fashion.
How did I know he was going to get involved in this at some point?
Okay. One thing that we touched on a couple moments ago, and you brought it up a couple of times, is this idea of almost unintentionally overstaying your welcome in a social community because you are trying to tell people about what you're doing. And, through social media, it is so bottlenecked because it's not just like, oh, this is a place where people go to find out about live music. It's like, this is a place where people go to find out about everything.
Yeah.
From dinner to politics to
fashion.
whatever, to fashion. It's all there, right? So the only way it seems to like cut through the noise sometimes is like, well, you got to keep being like, what about me? Right.
Right. You have to be almost belligerent about promoting yourself with it. Because number one, not everybody who follows you is going to see it. Number two, the people who do follow you are not going to really pay attention after they've seen it again. So you just got to kind of keep pushing out there. It is a bitch goddess to try to create content. And there have been numerous concepts that within our own camp we've played around with and tried to bring it to fruition, and it just doesn't do it.
Sure.
But the social media thing is certainly there. It needs to happen. But yeah, I feel like at times you do kind of overstay your welcome. And how do you keep that fresh? That's the difficult part about it for me. Like, how do you keep re-engaging with the people who enjoy what you do? At what point do you start to draw back?
I feel like it's so hard to be a musician that is kind of tethered to such a small demographic.
Yeah.
Because the idea, right, the goal for a lot of bands, not every band, but is like, okay, well, we have these songs and we play these shows, but we're going to different markets all of the time, right? So, you get to be really annoying to everybody in Pittsburgh for 1 month, and then, the next week it's like, well, I'm being annoying in Ohio, and then I'm being annoying in Arizona, California, whatever, right?
We've been fortunate enough to be annoying in Ohio recently too.
Yeah.
But, so, and then by the time you get back to Pittsburgh, ideally, maybe it's been close to 12 months, right? So it's like people want to see you again.
Heard you missed us. We're back.
But when
brought
you
my
have,
pencil.
You're on smaller scale. You're operating in kind of like a tri-state, PA, Ohio, West Virginia sort of world.
Yep.
It's like, okay, well, now you've gone from that 12-month cycle to maybe every other week or something like that. And it's difficult because you want to keep playing shows. You don't want to only play one show a year or one show every 3 months. But if you play too much, then
people assume
the supply and demand gets fucked up.
Right.
Well, yeah. And like you touched on earlier, to fully enjoy guitar driven music, you have to go out there and play. Where do you find the balance between being able to play and overplaying? And I think there's a lot of people in our community, a lot of different bands who are not necessarily struggling with that, but they've seemed to find a nice balance. We're in the search of that balance right now, because we absolutely need to play live. It's therapy, and I think for everybody who's listening to this, again, in the echo chamber of it all, getting out and doing that and performing is
so healthy.
It's healthy, but it's also healthy to talk to people about it as well. But the balance between performing live and taking time off is difficult, because at one point, you're investing all this time and all this energy into promotion, into putting out content, into making sure that, you reach out to local radio stations or even newspapers or even podcasts. So you put all that energy into it. And then when you get your downtime, it almost feels like you're kind of cheating yourself because you're not doing it anymore, but you do have to take the time away. And that is difficult. That's why it's important to actually get out of Pittsburgh every once in a while.
Yeah.
We have been very fortunate to have a lot of Cleveland musicians embrace us and have us there. And we're trying to reciprocate that and bring them here. But I would like to see other Pittsburgh bands like yourselves and your projects maybe come with us and go out to Ohio, go out to Morgantown, because that's a place that I feel like the artist community there is embraced. And I guess that's another thing, is like, how much embracing can you handle if you're just staying in one spot too. I am kind of rambling, but it's a podcast. The balance, I think, is you play your ass off, you get out there, you annoy people, and then you take a break. It's almost like going to the same bar over and over again, and you meet the people, and you have, you become a normal person, or a normal person there. And then you disappear for a few weeks, and people interest is kind of there too.
The cliche is absence makes the heart grow fonder.
That is a cliche.
Right.
Man, is it true?
Right. But you do have to make an impression the first time in order for them to even want to see you.
Well put.
And not take you for granted that, well, I'm going to miss this show because they'll be playing next month.
Yeah.
And that's
we're fortunate in that aspect too, because we have people that like to be watched. TK is a very charismatic front person. Ryan,
I have issues.
Ryan is fun to watch. I'm an idiot. I don't, I look like this as a choice, but I mean, it's also kind of a persona that I do on stage too.
Yeah. I think that, there's so much to unpack in the realm of how do we navigate what we're realistically able to do in the best way possible.
Mhm.
And I think something that's fortunate for a band like Dream the Heavy is the fact that you haven't pigeonholed yourselves in terms of style. So it's so easy for you to be like, hey, we're playing on a show with heavier bands, and maybe we're not the heaviest band, but we fit in.
Yeah,
or on the flip, hey, maybe we are the loudest band on this bill, but we still fit in because we have a dynamic sound and there's different things. So
right on.
If you get to play with different types of bands in different types of venues, you get to expose yourself to more small pockets, because local music communities are just weird little tiny pockets,
genre pockets.
It's something we were discussing on the right here, is how the people that we get along with the most, and that we have a good constant communication with musician wise, are people like yourself. You're involved with a number of different projects. Normal Creatures gets to play in that same aspect as well.
Yeah.
And it's important for us to play with bands that are genre fluid, that don't necessarily fit into a pocket, because some people love that pocket. Some people
it's a comfort zone.
It's an absolute comfort zone. I don't want to be comfortable when I perform, because if I'm comfortable, then I'm annoyed. And if I don't have that frenetic energy or that anxiety and that fire,
you don't grow.
Then I might as well just sit at an open mic and sing 90s covers.
I think that's why we love
acoustic guitar.
I think that's why we love you so much as well, because you have that broad scope of being outside of your comfort zone, being outside of the nest, going on your hero's journey, as Joseph Campbell would talk about. You know what I mean? So you come back different every time. But I think that's what the purpose of the Winter Wonder Ball has been as well, is making sure that it's an event during the cold season that brings bands together that aren't L7. They're not in their little box, genre box, so you go there and you get a taste, a smorgasbord, darling, of so many different flavors all in one act. I think every band that has played last year and will be playing this year is, you can't really put them in a box that easily.
No, look at Hemlock for Socrates. I mean, the fact that Heather and Keegan are able to make that really important and fantastic music with two people and put on a performance like they do is absolutely mind-blowing. And I feel like that same sentiment goes for Animal Scream as well, with being able to have three people and do that. I think it's important. And it's very important to us, because we don't get to play with a lot of bands like that, because we do get lumped in with a band that's like, okay, well, you guys are going to play with a few metal acts. You're going to be, you're certainly going to be the lightest on there, but we're going to be able to compete, and we're going to be able to assimilate, and we're going to be able to perform, because that's what we do. Or there's been times where we are the heavier band on the bill. And that's, it's that makes me happy. Yeah. I like being uncomfortable. I enjoy the chaos of it all.
That's a good show.
And when that's important, and it's also important to do my best and our best, and you as well, to give representation to bands who are vast, that their influences are worn on their sleeves, but it's not necessarily directly metal. It's not directly pop punk. It's something that each person, hopefully, in the audience can digest and kind of see, and grow with, and see that there's something outside of just the normal kind of boxing in of music genres.
I think each genre is a building block to something new.
When we did the podcast last year, I remember at the end of it, I was like, well, what do you think? And you're like, I've never even seen you or heard you guys before. I don't know what to think. And I remember after playing, I was like, well, what do you think now? And I remember, I recall, you sound like a mix of Danzig, James Brown, and what was the other one? Is Danzig, James Brown?
No, I love it.
And the Cult, I think is what it was.
Maybe.
And I was like, wow, I could
great.
actually pick apart all three of those things too.
And we hear that from depending on the person that we run into, they give like between 2 and 3 different acts that you're like, oh my God, I never put that recipe together, but it's their comfort zone of but they like, it's everything from the Police to Susie and the Banshees. I think the first time
for Soundgarden, which was weird.
Yeah.
But kind of cool in the same way. And I think within that same breath,
Alice in Chains and Susie and the Banshees was the one I remember somebody saying, and I was like, oh wow, okay.
And that's what's cool. Like last year, you had like even we'll just speak with Normal Creatures. Manny has an incredible, and in my mind, I hear it as an R&B voice, very very beautiful voice. You do what you do really killer. And the band just kind of produces the sound that you really can't dial down. You can't nail it down.
And a good look. Very cohesive. The outfits and everything you guys have been doing. Like, it's a good show.
And the video.
I've been paying attention. Oh, and the video, that black and white video back in the day was so cool. At you. Yeah. Brilliant. But please do one for us.
Yeah, the same with Back Alley. The same with, Zinnia's Garden and everybody this year too. So it's pretty awesome. And a quick thank you for taking over the actual stage production last year. I was swarmed.
There were some people at the venue did not want me to do such.
Wait, well, what are we talking about?
Some people at the venue shouldn't be training people while they're trying to do something. But you did a fantastic job, and I want to come on here.
Projection?
Thank
you.
Thank you for it. The stage manager. He did the stage manager.
Oh, you were the stage manager.
Like that.
Gotcha.
But you also,
I know. I see what you're saying.
You did a lot more than I think people are aware, and I want to thank you. You set up the video, you set up the screens, you did a lot of the production behind that.
Of course. You're welcome.
And to have you host is going to be dope. It's going to be great.
I'm excited.
Yeah.
I'm really excited for the opportunity.
Yeah.
I think that kind of looping back to something we were just talking about in terms of being a band and playing shows with different styles of bands and things like that. Something that I always try to keep in mind and something that I'm really like obsessive about now, and I mentioned it earlier, is how do we get normal people out to shows, not people that are in
not
bands.
Normal creatures, but normal people.
Yeah, like, just like the average person, how do we get more people in? And it's so funny because your expectations to perform from an outsider perspective, like say I'm just Joe and I'm just going to this show, like my friend Steve that I work with is playing. It's like these people, like they have such, it feels like they have such high expectations of a local band. Like if you don't really, really wow me or impress me, I'm not going to give a fuck.
Yep.
And the pressure that puts on me as like a performer can be like really like overwhelming if I let it get in my head sometimes, because like, it's like the stage hasn't been set in a way where people feel like, oh, like this is somebody that I should respect or somebody that is good because I'm in like a small club. So this is like a small band. So it must mean they're not good. And it's like, how do you make things seem like larger than life? Whereas like say maybe you go to, say you're a band and you get like an opening spot to play for like a touring band at a bigger venue, like a Stage AE or something like that. Like Normal Creatures got to play a show main stage at Stage AE one time opening up for someone, and it was a really cool show. And like, this has happened with Grey Walker too, where it's like afterwards people come up and talk to you and they're like, where are you from? And it's like, I'm from here. And they're like shocked. Right. Whereas it's like, so now it's like, I make it a point anytime we have one of those opportunities to be like, hey, we are from here, and if you like what we're doing, there's actually bands that sound like us and are better than us that play
Oh, well.
every fucking week.
Yeah.
So
get out.
get involved, you know. But I think just people's expectations of like local music is like cheap to some degree, and it's like, how do you change the optics of that?
I think
I got so many things I could say.
Yeah,
I'm
just
just gonna
say
go,
them.
I'm gonna go with this.
I'm instigating.
Yeah, I know. It's gonna be great. But I want him to go
being
first. Though.
accessible, number one, and having a local
Good.
a local group or a local radio station really push you can help.
WYEP.
Well,
X.
yeah, that, and then you know Stacy, who does the light on the X and everything like that, does a phenomenal job. But I feel like college radio can really push that out as well. How do you get people to know that you're here? You beat them over the head with social media posts.
We're good.
Now
it goes back
the conversation.
There it is.
Yeah.
It's a callback.
And how do you get it? You perform your ass off. You just don't hold back, because if you hold back, then the normal people who are coming out to see you are not impressed. They don't give a shit. And the people who are coming out to see the larger band probably don't really give a shit either.
Yeah.
Because you're the cigarette band. You're the band that they go get beer, they go have a smoke, and then they come back.
It's so funny when like you see, like, you hear stories
Yeah.
of people that are like, there's bands that are very successful, and they're like, but they're still like notoriously like not a good live band. Or maybe sometimes somebody will see somebody and be like, oh, they weren't that good, but I still love them, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, can I get that grace?
Yeah.
No. I have to
Not
be
yet.
a fucking 10 no matter what. And like these fucking ding dongs get to play in front of 10,000 people, do a half-ass show, and still be like lauded, you know?
Yeah,
It's
look.
just like, how do you cross that threshold, baby?
Beauty helps.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I think a lot of that is look. I think a lot of that is age. I think a lot of that is it's centered around just visuals. You can perform your ass off and still get that kind of audience and still get that kind of drive. The dudes in Go-Go Bordello are not very pretty. Mick Jagger is an ugly fucking motherfucker, just like Eddie Murphy said. But they're doing the performing and they're getting out there and they're actually they're doing something to connect to them. But I don't
Look, I think if those people have an expectation that local music is subpar, it's because that they've gone out and seen local music
that was subpar.
that was subpar.
But yeah,
Right. Okay. And local music is a way to cut your teeth, to learn how to be more than subpar. But at the same time, if you go into a room expecting that the crowd is going to be judging you as subpar, and now I have to, well, that's a big fuck you to them and yourself.
Sure.
You know, at some point you have to kind of realize that although you want them to be there, although, you know, for longevity's sake, you need them to be there, you're going to be doing it with your mates on stage, whether they're there or not. And the audience that you really need to wow are the fucking guys that you're creating with.
Yeah.
The band, the human beings that you're creating with, or space aliens in this case. But that's true though. I mean, the thing is they'll come along the journey if you are a good enough leader that they'll to believe in, because you believe in your troop.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like, you're there for your mates. The best advice I ever got, this was a band, Black Cat Moan, and we were going to the International Blues Challenge as a duo to compete in the International Blues Challenge in Memphis. And my buddy Marasco gave me the best advice, and he was like, it was exactly that. He's like, listen, you're going to be in front of a judges panel on every stage, and people from all around the world with their own expectations of what they like. He's like, but you're kind of lucky. You only have one person that you got to win over that night and bring along on that with you. You only have to excite one person. So you excite that one person, then it's, you know, that's what it is. And in this case, you know, I got amazing talent next to me that I could fly without a net. You know, like, I know these cats got me. You know, Matthias Brown on guitar, absolutely brilliant. Paul Dean Price on bass, brilliant. absolutely brilliant. Sully on drums, fucking brilliant and growing. And now we have Ryan Miller, on keys, brilliant. Like, it's like, fuck, like who else do I need? Except the people that I love that come to see the show.
Sure.
And I'll connect to them. But like, if I win over my mates, because they get to see me perform every time and every week when we rehearse. But if I give them something new that night,
yeah,
that's the energy.
Well, also, how many normies do you really want following you? Like
well, you want to transform them. You want to transform the normies. And that was something you were saying. I was like, there's so much to say.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, do you want the normies or do you want to help the normies not be normies?
Sure. I think that, I've been using the term normie and somewhat jest.
I know.
But
and
it's just like, what I really mean by that is just getting people involved in the community that aren't involved in a DIY community.
Yeah.
Because I could go to a show at, again, like Stage AE, seeing like a bunch of heavy metal bands or a big hip hop show and stuff like that. And there's 5,000 people here.
Yeah.
That like music that is not mainstream, but it's still, it's like underground for the mainstream, right? They're not playing fucking PNC Park or PPG, right?
Yeah.
But it's still like, hey, 5,000 people that could potentially like,
what you're doing,
something that I'm doing.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, well, how do I reach those people? They obviously have some interest in like alternative subcultures, but how do you get them to take the time to come see what you're doing?
Right. Or give you $1 every month so that you can live.
Sure.
Because that's $5,000 a month. If each person gave you $1 that saw you.
It's layered, it's really, really layered because there's so many reasons where it's like, hey, like maybe I do like your band, but maybe I, only get so much time away from work or
we all fall prey to
family
this.
and all that sort of stuff, right?
Yeah.
So the best thing that you could do is just, play as much as possible without oversaturating yourself. I think playing with different bands and different venues as much as, don't do that thing where it's always the same lineup in the same club every other month. People are going to get sick of it. And also, too, the absence makes the heart grow fonder thing where, like, there's been times with Grey Walker where it's like we step aside. It's like we want to be playing all the time, but the opportunities aren't there outside of the city right now. And we don't want to play too much in Pittsburgh. So as much as it sucks, it's like, well, I guess we're just not doing anything publicly for a couple months.
Yeah.
And that's okay, because when we come back, people still come out to the shows.
Right.
If we make a post, people still engage with it. It's not every day, but it doesn't have to be. We're still relevant.
Yeah. Oh, very much so.
It just makes
maybe that's the word you're looking for in some fashion is how do you stay relevant?
I mean, I have people also don't pay attention to you as much as maybe our egos wish they would.
As you pay attention to yourself. Yeah.
And that's the thing is there's been times where, speaking of Grey Walker, I'll run into a friend at a show and they're like, hey, like, what has the band been up to? And so. And it's just like, in my head, I'm like, we haven't been doing anything. We don't have anything coming up, which we do, but I'm just saying, like, there's been times where we haven't. But to them, it's just like, we're still a very active band. And it's like, cool, I'm glad you think that.
Yeah.
And I think for most cases, like, people assume that I'm doing all of this stuff all the time, and I am, but I'm also not. I'm not as busy as everybody thinks I am.
Well, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
That's a really good thing.
So it's like, if I could at least give the optics that I'm doing stuff, that's cool.
You look like you're busy all the time.
I'm really not that
perception.
busy. I spend a lot of time very alone and depressed, if we're being completely honest.
Yeah.
But that's okay. It
is okay.
It's the cross I bear.
If you didn't have an outlet, I'd worry about you.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And if you didn't have a friend circle, I'd worry about you. Every time you bring people to the table, I'm sure if you said, you gave them a call and said, I'm feeling like I need to talk to somebody, not on a microphone.
Oh, yeah.
We'd all be pretty thrilled to have that time with you.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. Just so you know, come hang out in my studio sometime, would love it. And, off mic, off camera, and bear our cross, throw each other's cross, throw crosses at each other. But seriously,
TK has pulled a number. I want to say literally everybody in this band out of a cycle where we're not feeling the best about ourselves. TK has been the illuminated one in our group. So when he says this to you, he's being sincere.
Yeah.
It's not for the fucking cameras. It's for you.
Yeah.
So if you're feeling like that, man, just reach out. Reach out to us. I mean, this is killer, man. You have, if anybody out there is fortunate enough to ever make it here,
to experience this
this
room
is
we're
awesome.
in. If you could only see the whole thing, it's so great.
None of this is anything without you. And thank you for what you do. But seriously, dude, if you just want to hang out, come hang out.
Yeah.
Switching back to the relevancy thing and staying relevant. If I could figure that out, I
Sure.
you know, it would change everything. But in that same thing, like I don't really mind at all being where we are, because it still gives me a sense of ownership of who we are. I think the bigger bands lose that ownership as well, because they have more people to report to, because they have all that. So I don't think that success and all these cool things that come along with it, I think it's fabricated in our mind, because we are force-fed fame. We are force-fed a lot of, like, you know, the Instagram post with the guy who's always on, always on vacation or always like that. It's fake. Real life matters. And I would rather play a dusty, shitty club with my group and your group and any other group than I would being depressed on a tour bus playing in Japan. So there is a great sense of accomplishment when you are in our community, because you have that, you're able to rely on everybody. Would it be awesome to tour the Japan thing? Yeah, that'd be awesome. I had a friend who went over to Japan and had a great time. But when they're here, they know that they are cared for and they're looked after. But to anybody, how do you embrace everybody? Just invite them to shows.
Sure.
Make sure that your show is entertaining. Make sure that you're offering more than you're comfortable giving.
Sure. And it's the there's a big thing with like promoting, where like one of the secrets I have found is you need to find a way to engage with people's like native interests. Like, what are they already interested in? And this is business speak and sounds a little gross, but like, how do you like exploit their native interests to the benefit of your event?
I don't know. I don't know
because
at all.
That's the thing is like,
how do you connect to their native interests?
Sure. That's a more
right, because we're not parasites. Totally. We're really trying to help people.
Yeah, but like sometimes it could feel that way.
Yes,
you almost feel like you're like
it feels
trying
gross.
to like trick people into like liking your stuff, and that's
it's not it.
Yeah,
that's not it at all.
It's also, I mean, I think one of the biggest downfalls for us as creatives trying to get things out there is the lack of time we take to stop and smell the metaphorical roses, right?
100%.
With bands, it's always like, what do we do next? How do we grow? How do we grow? How do we grow? It's like, do you even have a threshold of like what the optimal growth is for you? Or are you just going to perpetually be not happy or not thankful for even what you've built?
Yeah. Right.
One of the things that really rubs me the wrong way with some of my peers that do a lot of like heavy social media promotion is like, the idea with social media, from my perspective, is to build an organic fan base to connect with when you have something to share. And when I see a lot of people promoting, it feels like they're always just trying to promote themselves to the new batch of people. It's like, I'm here. I already like you. I don't need to see like, oh, hey, we're Dream the Heavy rock band from Pittsburgh, PA, like all the time.
A constant introduction.
I get it. Yeah. So it's like, you're always just trying to get new people, but not actually providing anything for the people that already know you and love you.
Ooh, that's a dance, isn't it?
Yeah. My intent is to keep people engaged. So the people that I want, when I'm doing all these things, I'm, putting myself out there, you see this face on all the IG stuff. I want to keep it as simple as possible. So it's relatable. So it's human. That's kind of where I am with all the social media with it too. I don't know where I was going.
Well, it is a dance though. It's like you have
to do both.
You have to do both. Otherwise you're alienating somebody. It's either like, oh, I don't even understand. I've never seen them before. What are they talking about? to oh my God, I've seen you 100 times. What are you talking about? Of course I know you.
Yeah.
You know, and that's tough. So there is, it's like I said, it's a dance.
Mm-hmm.
But at some point, like the social media thing does get tiring. And I believe our greatest asset as individual and underground artists is word of mouth. I really truly believe that. I've seen word of mouth bring new faces to our shows more than any cool reel that I make. So if you can get your band being talked about outside of just posts, I think that's more effective than actually getting the people who want to engage with you. So maybe that's it. Maybe we revert back to handing out CDs, or we revert to like laying flyers everywhere, even though it's terrible for the environment. But that could be a thing that we need to do. Maybe we need to go back to the roots of everything and really engage on a one-to-one thing, as opposed to just through, as TK would say, the magic little rectangle in your pocket. I think that's important too. Also, and talking to people at shows, being able to be approachable, I think is 100% the best way to get people to keep coming back. That's how I like to do it. I as much as I like to come up with really silly things and skits and make jokes, I'd rather just talk to somebody and just kind of hang out with them and make sure that they had, that they know that we're genuine people.
That's nice.
That's not bullshit either, unfortunately. No. Wish I could bullshit and be a gross businessman. I don't think I'm capable of it. I think that's why maybe we stay where we are, because I don't think anybody in our band has that drive though either.
I mean, like this I've had some opportunity in my life, and I probably still have this opportunity where if I wanted to get into a different social circle, possibly a social circle that might elevate me numbers wise, I know doors that I could knock on. I know asses I could kiss. I know social circles that I could parasite my way into, but I fucking can't stand any of those people. They're just not good people.
Because you know the trade-off. Like, yes, you can do this, but you also have knowledge of what the cost is.
Yeah, it's just like it's a question of like, what do I actually need?
Right.
It's like I want to grow, and I've made this statement before, but I don't want to grow like wearing a costume. Like I want to be able to be myself, because if I have to wear a costume every fucking day, then what's the point?
Right.
I'm doing something I didn't even want to do in the first place, just for the sake of metaphorical fame.
Yeah.
Great. Okay, cool.
Connecting.
It's like it doesn't make sense to me.
Right. Do it as yourself or not at all. And I was having a conversation just Friday night. I was saying there's a gallery that represents me in Pittsburgh, Box Art Gallery. Please go to Box Art Gallery in Bloomfield. They're the locally owned gallery. They're the longest in Pittsburgh. Please do yourself a favor. And I got to hang out with them Friday night, and the conversation was short game versus long game. All of us are not kids anymore, and
I'm 31.
Right. Well, he's 31, and I was born yesterday. but the point
I'm
is
87.
Right. So there you go. No, but the point is short game versus long game.
Yeah.
What are you in it for? Are you in it for a happy life, or are you in it for a happy moment that you look back on as glory days? You know what I mean? Or you're, and especially in the arts in this country, anyway, because I live here, you are a starving artist until you are the most paid. And once you're the most paid, man, that checkout line at the grocery store, those tabloids are waiting for you, baby. They're either building you up, fattening the calf, or they're eating you.
Yeah.
And God, like you hear these stories all the time, of how do you survive that? So is it a short game or is it a long game? And the most yourself you can be and just have the wherewithal to make sure that you have longevity, you don't change outside of your comfort zone while you constantly change as an artist and grow. Right. is the healthiest experience you can have in this meat suit.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
I've just like, I just don't, it's like, I really genuinely do not care about anything else other than being myself. And I know at my core, like, I'm like a decent human being. So I'm okay with being selfish. So I feel like my selfishness
Self-aware.
is a
Gift.
I mean, I wouldn't say that.
You should.
But, you know, like, this is all I want to do is just be me, make the music I want to make, do the podcast the way I want to do it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, people give me advice and tips for this fucking show. And it's like, oh, fuck yourself. Start your own podcast if you know so much.
Right. But you know, that is a gift, though, because so many people sell themselves. We talked about it a little bit ago. You know what I mean? Like really trade themselves in.
Yeah.
So being selfish or self-aware, however you want to coin it, is the best gift you can share. Is like the, you know, like we have kids.
Yeah.
And I remember, you know, thinking to myself or learning that the best thing a parent can do is to consciously realize that your child is born as something, and your job, your occupation now as a caregiver to raise them is to keep them who the fuck they are from day one.
Yep.
You got to acknowledge that they're different than you. They're going to have different interests. They're going to have a different thing. And you got to keep them kind of morally grounded, all book aside, you know, a dogma aside, like morally connected to being the best version of themselves they were born as. And that's the long game. And as an artist, that's the fucking long game. That's your inner child. You got to keep your inner child entertained by life long enough until your meat suit decides to release your energy. Because you got nothing more than that. Your energy's only here for a little bit.
Yeah.
Fucking implant it. Be a big old fucking tree dropping seeds everywhere. You know, just these little seeds of energy that you have. And, you know, trees ain't getting paid, but they're fucking they're not, but they're giving oxygen every moment, you know, and when we exhale, they live. And when they exhale, we live. And they're dropping seeds because there's an entire forest in a single fucking idea. There's an entire forest in a seed. And if you stay pure, that's not going to be a poison fucking seed.
Yeah.
It's going to be healthy. It's going to be food long after we're here to experience it.
Yeah.
Oh, boy, that was a lot.
That was a lot. Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah. All right. The monk mic drop.
Yeah. TK is an insightful motherfucker.
I spent a lot of time alone.
No, I mean,
on top of the mountain.
It's just TK in his room long gaming.
Yeah.
no, I get it and I relate to it.
Yeah.
And very much into the concept of the long game and putting that into a healthy practice for myself.
It's really hard though, right?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
It definitely, I mean, it's getting easier with time. I think that, you know, 10 years ago, there's no way I could have had this conversation with myself.
Right.
You know,
Not
I was
at all.
an insanely miserable person.
Oh.
And, you know, I've done a lot of work, even just outside of like being an artist. Just how do I interface with being a human being?
I'm still learning.
And and that's not something that I feel like nobody should ever. I would rather be around people that are figuring it out than somebody that thinks they have it figured out.
Yeah.
Because obviously they do not.
It's like, who the fuck do you think you are?
Anybody that tells you they have the answer is trying to sell you something.
And like, I don't know. It's just like there's so many layers to being alive, and being an artist is only one small part of it. Even if my art is my everything, I'm still just one small seed in this, you know, community of life in the world and things like that. So it's like I just need to be okay with the fact that like my bubble may seem small to others, but to me it's huge. You know, it's full of love, it's full of happiness, great opportunity, cool ways to share art and expression with people.
Yeah.
And like it's also so easy to take it for granted though when you only surround yourself with artists.
Yeah.
And like sometimes you forget like how beautiful the life that you live is because everybody else is also doing this cool shit.
Yeah.
But if you step outside of yourself and you go back to like the actual normie sort of thing,
Right.
it's like we're trying to climb a mountain that most people don't even think about looking at.
Right.
No.
So the fact that we're even on this journey, metaphorically trying to get to the top of this mountain is insane that we're here. And it's like, maybe the view might look a little different from the top, but from where I'm at right now, it still looks pretty fucking cool. So I think I'm just going to set up camp here and vibe.
I dig it. Yeah.
Well, a lot of that is finding the nice resting spot between all of your external pressure that you're getting from everybody outside of you, but you're also finding relief from your internal pressure as well. And when you can find that, and you can set up residency on that mountain wherever the fuck you want, because wherever you're gonna be, that's if your view is something you want. Why the fuck do you need anything else?
Yeah.
And that kind of goes back to the whole thing of like, how do you get more people? We want to get more people involved in this, but it's not my goal. I'd rather keep I'd rather have the cool motherfuckers show up to the shows than people who are just going to sit in the back and kind of judge. I want the people who are engaged. Some of the cool shows we've played where like there's one person who was just in front. We played Market Square and there were two dudes just vibing the whole time, and they were who they are, and I remember them more than I remember anybody who said I was cool. You know what I mean? I remember them because we were sharing that experience.
Yeah.
So that again, at some point you do have to kind of center yourself and resist the external pressure and the internal pressure, because I feel like the internal pressure is even worse. Yeah. Because you could always flip those guys off, but I mean, at some point you got to kind of like settle in with yourself. And I think that comes with age, that comes with experience, because 20-year-old me, my long game was to make money, get the other things that come along with money, and hopefully retire by the time I was this age. I'm fortunate enough to where I'm happiest musically where I am now, because I surround myself with people who build me up, people who support me, but people who also will tell me if something isn't really working. And as an artist, I feel like we cannibalize ourselves even more. We cannibalize ourselves more than we don't. How can I say this? We're willing to accept criticism and critique, but we're not willing to accept
love.
We're not willing to accept ourselves. And I think that's the thing too. We really got to kind of accept ourselves and realize that this is who we are. This is what we have to offer. Yeah. Because there's not going to be another Brian Sykes. There's not going to be another Paul Price. There's not going to be another TK. We're not going to do that. So you might as well push yourself, and you might as well become the best version of yourself. Man, someone needs like an aromatic candle, and maybe we should have our shoes off with all this stuff.
I definitely have my shoes off already. This is a beautiful moment. Thanks, guys. This is healthy therapy.
This is a moment that I think, obviously, this is a conversation we need to have.
Yeah.
And I have not been. I'm the happiest now with the musicians I'm surrounding myself with, and the musicians that have potential to surround myself with, because I just stopped. I stopped putting the pressures on myself. At one point, you kind of like listen to your music and listen to what you create, and you'd be like, well, that's the best I could do.
Yeah.
With what you got.
And to go back on that cannibalizing thing, where it's really easy to listen to a song that you recorded 10 years ago and be like, oh, I could do it better. But you're not going to be able to do that better, because those flaws, those faults, and that person who you are, or who you were back then, is not who you are. And you should still cherish that person well.
That's what makes it beautiful. That's what makes it, recordings for me, it's just it's a receipt of like who I was in that time at that day. It's no different than like the kind of embarrassing high school photo, right?
Right.
But it's like, fuck it, that's who I was.
Diary page.
I did the best that I could then, and like when I was so fucking stoked about it.
I was so stoked about it too.
And now I might look back on it and I could judge it, or I could just be happy that I had something to be excited about.
Yeah.
And I still need to have that excitement continuing to move forward.
Yeah. When those moments happen, look back at that so-called high school photo, and this is the humbling moment of your day-to-day, is to look back at that high school photo or that recording and kind of say, like project yourself back there and say, man, if you only knew what you're going to accomplish, like just wait.
Yeah.
Just wait. This is a building block. And to remind yourself on a daily basis of all of those accomplishments that are completely overlooked because you're striving for more, whatever more is. More is growth, really.
Yeah.
More is change, but like go back mentally in time and tell your high school self, it's going to be okay, dude. You know what I mean? You're going to play club. I remember when playing Club Cafe was like my dream in some fashion, of course, because I've experienced it from the audience, in Mr. Smalls and, oh man, listening to an album as a kid, did you that was like, can you imagine?
Remember the first time
being
you walked
recorded?
Walking into like a professional studio, and you were just absolutely enamored by everything.
We've done this, guys.
Yeah.
Like fuck yeah, we did this.
Yeah.
Like thank you and thank you and thank you and yes, let it grow.
I get that thrill whenever I go into Government Center and just see all those records and see all of that cool shit, and to see like all the old flyers on the wall, and just reminds myself that like I've actually kind of got here.
Yeah,
I know people that haven't.
So that's what life is.
We're in we're in like the community that we have in the world that we get to be a part of is very special. It's very unique. And again, we're in it all the time.
Yeah.
So you sometimes might unintentionally take things for granted or forget how special it is.
Right.
And it's also easy to be like, well, there's maybe bigger houses out there and things like that. But it's like, was that really like what you actually want?
Yeah.
And also too, like
you can grow your house bigger.
Yeah, you can grow your house bigger. And like thinking about like sometimes when you talk to people outside of this world, maybe coworkers, family, friends, and like sometimes they have this like really kind of grand idea of what our life is, and we might look at them and laugh and be like, it's not really like that.
Dude, I'm still making mac and cheese for my kids at like 8 o'clock at night.
It's still like, but it is still really cool though, because they are still like, there is a world and a community and a thing that we get to like go into a recording studio. We get to go play a show in front of people, whether it is, a huge thing or not. I mean, that's subjective.
It is.
The smallest things can be so big to so many other people. It's like, to some, $1 may not seem like a lot of money, but to others, $1 could change their day.
True.
So
we played with a band from Cleveland at Ormsby, and they were the most thrilled to be actually able to get out of Akron and play in Pittsburgh. Like they were just absolutely thrilled. And we were thrilled to be in Akron. We were thrilled to be there. Like, so yeah, take those small victories and really harness them.
Yeah. Cause it's like
perspective.
It's a moment in time, you can always you can make more money.
Yeah.
You can lose money or friends, things like that. The only thing that you can't get back is time.
Right.
Yeah.
So being very, very intentional and being very thankful for the time that you have and just putting the most positive energy that you can into that time is
the best
so
investment.
Fucking crucial. Yeah, it's the best investment that you can make.
And I'm sure in bands that you're in, you get that from everybody who's involved with the music you make with them, because otherwise why create with them?
Right. You seem smart enough to choose the people you want to, your playmates.
You're
at a point that you can choose your
I don't want to put you on the spot if there's anything going on or anything like that.
I mean, if we're being completely honest, we're still human.
Yeah.
So everybody has their ups and downs and their things that make it so priorities change.
Yep.
And, nobody is in a position to just give 110% to their art. Even the most successful fucking people in the world have lives.
Yes.
So
they have lives and they have careers to maintain.
Yeah.
And that's what kind of we're talking about. Like once it gets so big, you start forgetting that when you're that big, you're not in the studio all the time. You're giving more because there are more people that want. So, okay, back to you.
I mean,
there's also more people that want from you too.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I don't know how closely.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
I don't know how closely either of you have followed Chapel Roan over the past few months or any of the interviews that she has given about because she blew up super quick. And she's been she got a lot of flack from a lot of people, but also a lot of praise from a lot of people because she was like, look, this is my space and this is my time and I don't owe you anything.
Mm-hmm.
Being very putting up a wall immediately of being like, I'm not gonna do all of this playing nice because I'm supposed to, because I'm a pop star. Like, fuck you.
Yeah.
And I think that you'd probably fuck with her energy a good bit, actually.
Oh, I gotta check her out.
But yeah, no, and it was kind of interesting because I think for a lot of people, it's the first time they're hearing an artist say that. And I think a lot of people that aren't artists are like, well, some people get it, some people don't. Some people are like, she should be thankful for this and stuff like that. And it's like, you just don't get it. You've never actually had that pressure put on you, and it's insane.
Well, we tend to villainize those people too. I mean, and here's me showing my age. That kind of happened with Sinead O'Connor. That happened with Fiona Apple too. When an artist put up boundaries, people, the general public tends to think that because you're an artist, because you're putting yourself out there, that you are owned by them, and I feel like Chappell Roan putting up her boundaries really sets a precedent for a lot of the younger people. My daughter, it helps sets a precedent. My daughter is a very creative person. She's nurturing her talent, and she sees something like that. That's going to help her in the long run far more than anybody who's just gonna falter to that. So I respect Chappell Roan, and I believe a meteoric rise to that sort of thing can be scary, and maybe she's using her fear to actually protect herself. So protect yourself at all costs with that too.
Just the whole back and forth from like people
paparazzi too was really
harassing. From like people that like either get it, and it seems like a lot of the people that get it were just like other artists in like her peer group, like, wow, thank you for saying something. Because there's just like all of these like crazy, I mean, it's just different, and it's like her trajectory is so interesting because it's not like she came out of nowhere, and blew up very, very big. And I remember when that was first happening, I was like, this is intense. I can't only imagine what this is like for somebody like her to be put in this position.
If I recall, she wasn't even like the top. She wasn't getting top bill for the Pride performance that was here at Stage AE.
No,
this year. This summer she wasn't. She was a friend of ours, photographed her, and our friend fell in love with her. And she's like, watch out. This Chappell Roan's incredible, but that's how quick it can happen. And to be able to stand on your own merits and do that, kudos to her.
It's honesty.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I think a little bit ago we were talking about like you're like, there are some doors I can knock on, but there's also, what that cost is. Each time you knock on it, you're going to get knocked down.
Behind that door is a lot of baby oil.
Yeah. That's funny.
That's funny.
I mean,
it's a trade. So what do you trade? Yeah. Do you either trade yourself in an honest fashion, right? And let that be the gift, the lesson, the philosophy, and not just something, a commodity. And that's self-worth. That's the best thing you can do, I think, as far as like being somebody to be watched, right? Because that's all, it's what do they call somebody that's a pop star, or what do they call it? What's the word that they use?
Celebrity?
Influencer.
So how do you influence, right? The best thing, and again, maybe it's because I have children, to know that the best thing you can do is not to be celebrated, a celebrity, right? To be popular, because I know all those people that were popular in high school, they were horrible human beings, right? Or celebrated. What do you want to be celebrated for? You want to be celebrated by being a positive influence, like a philosopher is, all of these great minds, right? Be your great mind. Be at least present and conscious enough to realize that you are an individual that's being consumed in some fashion. So are you healthy? Are you fast food? Right? Are you fast food? Or are you fucking something that's going to nourish? Or are you going to be that seed in that fucking, that's going to grow so much healthy apples that season, right? But yeah. And I think she's doing a wonderful job.
I agree.
I think like we're going to watch that seed grow and like all these different performers. Billie Eilish, I think, was the first one that I remember stepping out of that and saying like, I'm not to be sexualized. Why do I need to wear that?
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like that's on you.
Yeah.
That's on you.
That was another thing too with like, I'm sure we're familiar with like the Charlie XCX Brat green album cover thing. I don't know, but like, So whenever she put out her album, a big part of like her whole branding thing was like, look, like I don't want to do this like sexualized thing. So just like very much like not putting my face on anything, very simple text sort of stuff. And like, granted, you know, she's still a very attractive human being and does, you know, like all sorts of like modeling and things like that. But for like anything that's like directly related to the art itself, to the music itself, it's just like, this is about the music, almost like pulling the image away from it and making it be, it's audio, you know, just listen to it.
And I think I know as far as as a human being, I think that's even more enticing. Don't you think?
Sure.
I think it's more enticing. I mean, to somebody who likes intrigue, somebody who likes to experience something that I can't preconceive how it's going to end, like that's fascinating to me. The more, you know, there is that kind of, you know, showmanship of dichotomy of this is the art, this is who I am, and you can merge them in your mind. You're going to do it anyway. You know, I think last time I was here, I mentioned, you know, like what we grew up with, you know, and it was that the Kiss. You know what I mean? You know, it was Michael Jackson.
Image to the max.
Yeah.
Image to the max. But there was that dichotomy. You know, there was Prince and Paisley Park. There was Michael Jackson and the Never Ranch. Like, it was like, you know, like this thing. And it's like, this is the art. This is the show. And this is the human being that is on stage, you know, and this is the human being that's not on stage. And I'm not to be consumed. I'm here to share.
Yeah. I think that it's
an intimate moment. I'm here to share an intimate moment because, as we were talking about too, we forget that not everybody has those moments to be on stage and to have that energy. It took me a long time to get comfortable with not being completely like losing myself in a negative way. Like where none of me was on stage, instead of losing myself so much that all of me is now on stage. And that took a long time. And not everybody has that experience of standing in front of that many people and having a microphone. Fuck, that's a lot.
Oh yeah.
That's a lot. And so us being in the artists community, when we hang out with people that aren't in the artist community and they only see the end result, you know, the way we did growing up, looking at Kiss and only seeing the end result. And that's by design, right?
Yeah.
And all these people, it's by design, you know, and I always tell my kids, and I always have, that, you know, what is famous? Daddy, are you famous? You know, it's like, well, you know, and I want to be famous someday. And I was like, well, what type of fame do you want? You know, I was like, being respected amongst your peers is the fame that you want. You know, like going someplace where it's people of like mind and they look to you and say, you've really given me something. And now I'm here to give you something. That is the fame you want. It's very compared to fame where you can't go grocery shopping.
Sure.
You are so consumed that you need bodyguards because they don't know who the hell you are. You're so famous as an object, right? That end result. So anyway, we're at a pretty beautiful place in our lives, and we've always have been. And to remind ourselves that it is a process. It's every rung of whatever ladder. And the whole thing about fame and about creating is what we really want. And earlier I said, well, I have a lot of issues. The issue is that I never felt like I could relate to anybody. And so as an adult, when I am more comfortable with myself, I really want them to understand that I'm an individual that has something to offer. And when you have something to offer, that's your core, that's your group, you know what I mean? Like that's who you want in the room, which we said earlier. Yeah. You know, do you want to be in a room of two people that are really connecting because they get who you are or what you're offering at that moment?
Yeah.
As an artist, as a performer, as a human being? Or do you want 30,000 people where the front row is there for you and actually it's the row in the back is there for you, and then the 20,000 people in front are there for the act after you, and the 20,000 people are now judging you and chopping you apart because they are not what they perceive as the food they've come there for, which was completely stylized and that's, whatever. So that said, man, like, be present in your journey. Be present in your journey, accept it, and periodically sit down with the person who was on the road, in high school, and appreciate them for taking all those knocks and being awkward and putting it out there and being shot down, and keep putting it out there and keep getting shot down by the things that you don't want anyway, and keep putting it out there and being accepted by the things that will align with you anyway. And just keep growing. This is the journey until our meat suit releases our energy.
Yeah, I don't know how. Fuck it. There's no time limit. We can tape can roll forever. I'm about to open up another can of worms potentially, but it's on my brain. So
let it loose.
An interesting thing that happened for me in my journey as an artist in regards to sharing my art with the world was I went through a phase when I would create art. And I always made art for myself. However, there's always the idea of like, once you realize like, oh, I'm going to be sharing this art with other people. Right. I am recording music. I am booking shows to play. So you have this idea in your head about like, who is my fan base? And I kind of want to create art for a specific demographic of people. So I could play a certain kind of show and play with other artists that are like-minded, right? I simultaneously have always been myself in my art. I wouldn't allow those desires to really like influence what I'm doing too much. I just assumed that because I'm an open-minded person, that other people would also be open-minded. Right. And I've had like, basically for people that I look up to not give a shit about my art, not want to play shows with me, or like, through the grapevine heard, negative things. And that's okay. But it's really interesting when you start to realize the demographic that you thought you were a part of they don't actually care about you. But the people that are fucking with you are people that you would never think would be your demographic. And it's like, okay, well, how much do I even know myself or my art? Yeah. This is interesting in trying to figure out like, I think that I'm a part of one thing, but I'm not. And I think it's like the moral of this story is like what we were already talking about with just not pigeonholing yourself, being open to playing with other bands, playing in different types of environments, different venues, because you don't know.
Yeah.
Going back to that, do you know who you are? Do you know yourself? And it's better to be like, well, I don't think I do. I'm still learning who I am. And it's like, I don't know who my art is for. Yeah. And that's actually kind of a beautiful thing. Take the opportunity to keep sharing it with people, because they may not, you don't know who you're looking for. The people digesting your art may not even know that they're looking for you.
Yeah.
And
all you know is that you're not the person you were yesterday.
Yeah.
That's all we know. We're not the person, that we're going to be tomorrow. Thank God, right? And that's what people look for.
Well, just be vulnerable though, too. Like you have to allow yourself to be vulnerable and to be accepting that you're not going to get your way just because you do something and you create for a specific thing. I'm always more entertained and responsive to people who I never thought I would reach, who I never thought things would reach. And I've played in metal bands, hip hop bands, funk bands, all these bands, and I to have that specific demographic and try to reach out to them and have someone else from another mindset kind of become a fan of what you're doing, that has allowed me to become even more. It allows letting go of yourself is more of yourself being who you are than it is keeping yourself shackled too.
Yeah, I mean,
so I've had that experience too. Like. I mean, who knows? Maybe we're gonna play the Gathering of the Juggalos next year.
Sure,
I would love that.
I'd experience it. Yeah, experience.
Yeah. Being in that position when it's like I realized that my art isn't resonating with the people that I wanted it to.
Yeah,
there's two things I could have done. Either I compromise myself, or I just realized that like, oh, maybe that's just this this road does not go where I thought it was.
Yeah.
Right.
You know?
And be okay with it.
Yeah.
The other thing that when you were saying that earlier is, you wanted to connect with these people that are already doing because you look up to them. What we also have to realize in ourselves as well is that they got a lot of shit going on.
Sure.
The way that am I as involved in knowing and how many bands are going on in Pittsburgh? There's so many phenomenal ones. And, I haven't gotten to see all of them live just because my focus in my day-to-day life, like I would love to. So you expecting them to know who you are and to have that time to actually listen to your album, like you have no idea what they're going through
totally.
and what their hourly, thing is. And when you come to grips with that, maybe it's a little bit of a release, like, okay.
But also, you don't know who's actually listened to you.
And that's the counterpart.
Appreciated that
that's the counterpart that I wanted to get to.
Sorry if I interrupted.
No. That's the perfect segue.
Yeah.
Like there is always somebody. There was an interview or a soundbite, on a TikTok-y blah blah that was Pharrell saying there's put it out there because there's always somebody listening. There's always somebody listening, and the good shit always rises to the surface. So put it out there long enough, it will be heard.
Yeah,
if it's authentic, because you can only hear the same echo chamber of the same genre that was created decades before you were on stage doing it now. How do you expect to rise? Where's the long game in that? You've become something, and it's fun and it's great to honor that. I get it. I totally get it. I want to put together a good cover band of some fashion as well. It's celebrating. It's celebrating it. But the thing that stands out, the original thought, has longevity if it's pulses long enough for it to stand out amongst all the other static. If you have a pulse and a breath, it'll cut through the static. If it's honest enough and you have that long game.
Yeah.
Just be there for it.
Mm-hmm.
Be
and
there
also
for it.
Sometimes songs just suck. That's okay too.
yeah. You have to write a shitty song for you to write a good one. We learned through
I've
contrast.
definitely written some of those.
We learned through contrast.
You know what I mean?
And you're supposed to.
Yeah. It's like I have a book over there. I have a two book set over there with every painting that Salvador Dali's ever done.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of shit.
Oh, there's definitely a lot of pages in there. I'm just like, whatever.
Yeah.
I just saw that the largest. I was down in the Baltimore Museum, and they have the largest collection of Matisses, and there were a ton that I've never seen before. And there's a reason why you haven't seen that before. But it's very much. It was very honest to who he is, but it was just that day. And it was just a connective step to something else that you're familiar with.
Yeah. And
you gotta keep building. You gotta keep giving it every day. You gotta you gotta keep walking every day or you're a stagnant motherfucker.
Sure. And it's like, it's okay for things to not be, you don't always have to one up yourself as an artist. And I think that's something that we try to, oops, accidentally turned on the wrong camera. That's something that we try to, I think, unintentionally do, where it's we're writing a song, how's this song going to be, better than the last one in whatever way? How's this album going to be better than the last one in whatever way? When it's just hey, maybe as a person, I'm just not better today than I was yesterday. It's
better is a relevant term.
Yeah, well, that's the thing.
Subjective,
is something that might be more boring to you might be somebody else's favorite thing, know? And I think it's just as long as the honesty is there, the intention is there, it doesn't have to be groundbreaking or world changing or genre defying. Get over yourself.
Yeah.
Right. Well,
just let it be what it is.
Think of those albums from bands that we love and artists that we love that were their first couple albums that didn't have the traction until their 10th album or their 5th album. And you look back and everybody's like, that's the best. Hunky Dory. Oh my goodness. It's such a phenomenal fucking album by Bowie. It's my favorite. but it wasn't received that way. It's the long game where you look back at that artist's work and say, man, that motherfucker was real from the beginning. And you see how the growth got them there. Like, that's the fascination of an artist, of like pointing out an individual's life, is watching their growth. And I think maybe that's what social media has done for people, but in a weird way that, like, now you can watch in real time somebody's growth. But it doesn't mean that they, are, I don't know, you gotta suss out, you gotta suss it out. And sometimes it really only, it does take a time span for somebody, for it to be properly received instead of daily bites.
Yeah. And everything is so fast paced with social media, but it takes time. And it's like Dream the Heavy, looping everything around back to the band, is still a young band.
Yeah.
You're a very, very young band.
It's hard to remember, and we got to remind ourselves that.
Yeah. And it's just like, you just got to keep putting stuff out there, being consistent, pulsing.
Yeah.
I recently uploaded, I'm over 500 episodes of the podcast now. I've been doing this for over 10 years.
Yeah.
And I had somebody message me, somebody that I went to high school with, somebody that I've been friends with on Facebook the entire time I've been doing this podcast.
Oh, no.
It was just like, yo, it's really cool to see you're doing a podcast now.
Finally.
Keep it up. That's awesome. It's like, sure, it only took 10 years for this one person.
Prime example.
And it's just like, oh, it's a thing.
Yeah. You don't know what their world is,
So I was like, okay.
Yeah. How many times have you discovered bands that I've already broken up, will never record again, and it completely changes your life?
Sure. Or going back to, like, you had mentioned Billie Eilish. I remember a lot of people were like, where did this person come from and how is she so popular? And it's like, I was hearing stuff from Billie Eilish in like 2015 that friends were sending me, like, check out this like weirdo. I was like, oh, this is kind of cool, like weird, like underground pop stuff. And then she, blew up. And it's like the type of thing where it's like, sure, maybe she is, in her early 20s or whatever, but her and her brother were making music in their bedroom.
Yeah.
Since they were like literal teenagers. Right. So they have that 10 years in already before you even hear about them.
That's the huge soundbite right there. Like that's really what it takes.
Yeah.
It's, we always, once it gets mass consumed or comes into your world, that's when it's so the end result of something that is a day to day thing. There was somebody I was listening to, a podcast I was listening to, and they were talking about somebody that they looked up to, and it's this speech that they gave, this talk, was world renowned as far as neurological speaker anyway. But what you don't realize is that person, it was their 300th speaking time or lecture that year, and they're 10 years deep into it, right? And then you see it, and it's because it was their 300th time doing that, right? It's because you keep one foot in front of the other, because you keep exercising your creativity every day as yourself and studying other artists, being open to other people, that's your ability to grow. It's when you go to a show it's fun to go see just a specific genre evening. It's very healthy to watch all of that happen. You know what you're going to. It's great. I understand the need for that. But going to an event like the Winter Wonder Ball, or, where you have these so many different artists of many genres on the same stage. That's why Lollapalooza worked, right? It's because you're going to go there and you're going to experience things that you didn't even know you loved yet. And when you do that, that is a well-lived life. So my point is that there's a long game before you get to experience it. And so you're on your long game until they get to experience it.
Yeah.
And be open to experiencing something new so that you, in turn, can consume it and then shit it out for everybody else, or drop a seed.
It's really
share
difficult.
Your change.
It is difficult for people to actually get out and experience those sorts of things, though, too, because
Time-wise,
you get in your bubble
money-wise.
and your bubble's comfortable, and sometimes you have the social limitations to where you don't want to get out there.
I get it.
Where you have the fear of doing that, and that's where you need to have relationships with people who are willing to accept who you are, to take you to those sorts of things as well.
Right.
So maybe that's a great way to reach out and reach more people, is to have an acceptable, to be more accepting, and to say, yes, you're welcome to our space.
Yeah.
You are absolutely welcome here.
There is something that like unintentionally feels like kind of cool kids club about like underground music.
Yes.
At like, you know, a little dive bar
Yeah.
where it's just like, oh, is everybody just gonna like beat me up if I come here?
Yeah.
And it's like, no, it's not like that. But
We've experienced that.
That's high school trauma.
We've definitely, it is high school trauma, but we've experienced where there are, because we are a younger band, we are noticing that there are certain circles and certain pockets of bands and certain pockets of performers that tend to stick within their own bubble. And they play relatively the same venues over and over again. And because it's a comfort zone thing, and that they do generate more people. They do generate a bigger crowd. They do generate that. But I could talk to the blue in the face about this shit. Sometimes I just don't feel like I want to go there because I don't think I'm going to fit in. So I need to take TK with me so we both don't fit in and we can actually like infiltrate this thing, but also kind of show like, maybe someone's like, oh, okay, well, maybe, you know, maybe they are cool. Maybe it's something like that. Maybe I know they're, you know, Paul's an older dude with a big gray beard, but he actually does know a little bit here and there. I want to be able to like break those things down and to be able to play more with those social cliques, but also to kind of show, you know, like I said last time we were here, to show venues that you don't have to just book your friends' bands over and over again. Take a chance. I know it's money, and I know money right now is like super scary, very, very scary. We're all really, really very close to the vest with cash and with our credit and with what we are.
sure.
But I'm hoping that eventually in Pittsburgh, especially with the diminishing places to play, that people can open up and not just hold on to the bubble that they know that works. That's a fearful thing. And I have no problem admitting that I am fearful of putting myself in that way. So once again, social media I think is a nice little way to get in there because that can get your foot in the door. However, it is more important to physically be in those things and to go out there and do that. I've gone to shows to where I can't stay the entire night because I feel I feel unwelcome at times because there is a difference between that. And I hope and I pray that nobody who comes to a Dream the Heavy show or a Normal Creatures Grey Walker show ever feels that way, because it is the worst feeling.
That's true.
One of the shows I felt great going to was when you did the show at Preserving Underground, the Nosferatu show. And I wound up talking to Old Game quite a bit, you know, a little bit here and there. And we wound up having him at our record release. And that opened me up to being able to go to a show by myself again. Because there was a time where I was, what's the word? What do I say? I was fucking scared, dude. I was scared. I was afraid that being a new person in Pittsburgh, not having the connections, not doing this, having to go out and promote my band to people I don't know, that's a big fear. And once again, if anybody who's watching this, whoever you are, you're always welcome to a Dream the Heavy show. You are always welcome. We want more people like you, because we want to open that up, and we want to make sure that is our fan base, because that's the reciprocation of love is very important. You know, it's we consciously make a choice to make music that is embracing, that can also be abrasive, and that can also be danceable. But man, I really want to pull in a community. I really want to be I want to be loved. I want to be adored, you know, to quote the Stone Roses. And I think all of us do, but
It's
that's
the human experience.
It's the human experience. And it really, you have to be vulnerable enough to say that and to do that and to put yourself out there. Otherwise, you're not going to get that back. that kind of coming around to everything we've been talking about. Yeah, we're a pretty young band. So I still have the fear of going out and doing that. Reaching out to you the first time was very frightening. Reaching out to TK, even though we had been having coffee for months at a time when the band was being formed, we just lost a singer, and I was like, I don't know. TK's doing this, the Black Hat Moon thing. They're very blues. I've seen him perform. He's incredible. Is he gonna want to do this kind of post-punky rock and roll alternative thing? I'm not sure. But maybe it's that fear that we need to embrace more rather than run away from it. Yeah. But that's a very difficult thing to do, especially if you are younger and more impressionable. It's much easier to surround yourself with just college age bands. It's much easier to surround yourself if you're in a hip hop band, to surround yourself with that pocket. Maybe as a community, we need to start opening up and inviting other people. It's really easy to have a lot of your friends on the same bill.
That. You do fucking realize that, right?
No, I don't. I have no fucking clue. I'm trying to.
See, every single time I see a show that you're playing, even outside of Winter Wonder Ball.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I know that it's a diverse situation. It's always super cool lineups.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I noticed that you guys do a lot too is just kind of like grabbing the bull by the horns in a way of just like, hey, we're going to curate this experience in this community for ourselves because nobody else is going to do it. Like the idea of the promoter, especially in Pittsburgh, is pretty much toast.
Yeah.
There are a few, but most bands that are like doing this, it's like we're doing it ourselves. We have to book the fucking shows ourselves and, wear all these fucking hats.
Yeah.
But that's the best way to do it.
Right.
It is.
That's really cool. Thanks, dude.
Thank you very much. We do make a conscious effort to try to do that. And in doing so, you kind of shoot yourself in the foot because you're not getting the turnout you want. You're not getting all this stuff. Eventually, it's going to happen, and eventually, all of us are going to come together and kind of do it together. And if it's a Winter Wonder Ball every year, that's the only place that it gets done. So be it. When it comes to that thing, this is something that the band itself, as all these shows we played, all these little things that we do, this is money that we are investing in. And this is the money we made all year long, which isn't gratuitous, but we're investing into this so we can make this thing happen.
Yeah. You're growing, it's like you're putting on multiple events, you're recording music, you're releasing music, you're, playing shows out of town, you're bringing bands in from out of town. Maybe it's not on a huge scale.
Yeah.
But just on paper, if you just write that stuff down, it's a pretty attractive looking resume, even for a young band.
Right on.
Full of old dudes.
But again, that's the perspective. It's like, step outside of yourself, look at your resume. You know what I mean? Like write it down if you have to and pretend it's somebody else. And let impress yourself for one day. Allow yourself to impress yourself.
That's why I do the first one. Last year's one was pretty rad too. It was cool because it was all friends or friends of friends. And then this year, the only people that we know of directly was Louis.
Yeah.
Animal
Abstract
Scream.
Theory.
Yeah, Abstract Theory. Animal Scream was just a band that I thought was killer. Zinnia's Garden was just a band that I heard they're pretty badass. We met once on a podcast.
You're doing what we've been talking about doing. You're reaching outside of your bubble. You're not allowing yourselves to get comfortable. You could have very easily asked fucking us and Back Alley Sound to play the show again. We would have said yes. It would have been fun, but
I knew this was coming. We want you involved. I know. I'm just fucking with you. I'm just fucking. Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I
growth reasons.
Yeah. I turned down playing Millville Music Fest 2 years in a row. I was like, hey, we want you to play. I was like, put somebody else on the stage. We played last year.
Yeah.
Right. That's noble.
I don't care.
Yeah.
Right.
It's a good opportunity for me, but it's just let somebody else do it. Grow this thing. If it's the same fucking thing all the time, the long game.
Right.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to care.
Right.
It burns out.
Having you come on this year as a host and an MC is extremely valuable to us because we know the value that you've been putting into this community for a decade now. right? And you honoring us by doing that this year after honoring our stage last year.
Yeah.
It means a lot, dude. It
really
thank
does,
you
dude.
for saying yes.
Thanks for asking.
Dude, ask. Always ask. I mean, that's the lesson too.
Yeah.
To always ask. But it means a lot to us because we know your value that you've been putting out there. We're lucky. We're privy to what you give.
To touch again on the pulse, man, you've really helped out more people than I think you know.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. I don't want to know. Don't let it get to my head.
No,
I remember the first time I saw you.
Shadows.
I remember the first time I
keep me in the shadows.
I remember the first time I saw you and thought, oh, I need to say hi.
Yeah.
I remember that first. It was at the Millville Music Festival. Black Cat Moan was playing, and we were sharing the same parking lot, and you were going in a direction. I was like, hey, you're Brian Sykes. And they're like, oh, hi. And like, we're gonna Black Cat Moan. We're gonna be playing, and it'd be cool. Your podcast is great. And you were like, we should do it. So I was, that'd be awesome. And then years later, but I remember, you do have that effect on you put it out there. As an art, I'm saying this in general, put it out there because you don't know how it can help somebody get out of their comfort zone.
Yeah.
I think that's been the underlying topic of this entire conversation.
Get uncomfortable. Get comfortable with being uncomfortable.
And how do you help people get uncomfortable getting out of your comfort zone? Again, it's that
go see us.
Yeah, go to a Dream the Heavy show.
Yeah.
But it's study Joseph Campbell in The Hero's Journey that you have to go out of your comfort zone so that you can obtain the knowledge that you can bring back to your comfort zone so that can pulse and grow and feel connected to the entire world that you're afraid of. And the only reason you're afraid of it is because fear is the unknown, right? And so
go into it.
Get into it, baby.
Get into it. Yeah. For real.
Yeah, love it.
And if we're lucky to do this again next year, I would love to branch out and have different bands and different things. We're very fortunate as a band ourselves that all five of us kind of see this as a vision and see this as something we want to do. So hopefully, it's
just one piece of the puzzle,
but
don't let it dominate everything. It's one event in a sea of things.
Yeah. Right.
But it takes a lot of work.
It's a lot of work. And what it takes.
Indubitably.
Yeah. Indubitably.
But it would be a beautiful thing to maybe let's mentally project it that the Winter Wonder Ball or its energy becomes something that is not just Pittsburgh.
Sure.
Like maybe next year it's also Cleveland and Pittsburgh. Then the year after that, it's Brooklyn and Pittsburgh and Cleveland. It becomes something that the more people you bring in to help, of course, to connect, because it's so much on him. But the point is to create an environment that you can now share further than your bubble and comfort zone.
Yeah.
That's what we've always worked towards.
But we're also really lucky to be in Pittsburgh and to have these venues be able to take a chance. I spoke earlier about take a chance, blah, 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 putting it all on them, but it's not all on them. There are opportunities for everybody to do this. And if you can, anybody can do it. And I've seen since we did this last year, there's been a number of different festivals kind of like this that have popped up and been successful. I think last year we were talking about how nothing happens in December. It just kind of goes dormant. That is not the case this year.
True.
There are tons of things going on this December. And there's just great projects going around. And that's when you welcome that sort of thing, you also kind of take on the competition of it too. So how do you remain competitive with still being
helping people grow,
idea, but how do you do that? I think that's another difficult thing.
Minds.
Yeah, growing like minds. It's difficult, but it's also rewarding.
Yeah,
just absolutely rewarding. And I think that was
insight.
That was the drive to initially do it, was to get people to open up and to do it. And now that's happening, Man, it's pretty
Think
sweet.
about that. Holy
That's pretty
smokes,
sweet.
Paul.
Yeah.
It's only
It's
been
not
1 year.
It's
No.
been 1 year,
But
yeah.
I just, again, perspective.
Yeah.
Let's look back a year ago. And like, we were like, well, there's nothing. Because the year before that, there was nothing.
Yeah.
And so, you take it on to do something. And now this year, there's more.
Yeah.
Holy smokes. Congratulations
The
for building that forest from one seed.
The community in general is growing. There's way more stuff going on than there has been in the past couple of years, for sure.
For sure.
And it's a good thing.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm seeing more people come out to shows. I'm seeing more people. I don't know who the fuck you are.
Yeah.
And I'm not at Stage AE. I'm at the Shred Shed.
Yeah.
And there's a room full of strangers. Just
Yeah.
last night, like,
Ah.
great. There's a show there tomorrow night on a Monday. Let's rock and roll. Let's headbang. I'm fucking ready to go. So it's just like more things are happening. There's places are being facilitated. People are coming out.
Yeah.
But,
all
there's
have to
so
share.
many layers to it. It's just a matter of making sure that we
Build the scene.
build it and take care of it.
Yeah.
Well, how do you nurture it? How do you feel like it should be nurtured? What are the core principles of nurturing the scene and keeping it going for everybody while maintaining your vision? Because I have no fucking clue.
Yeah, but this isn't the first time it's happened.
This is definitely
But
not
we
the
have
first time
access
it's
to,
happened. No.
maybe there's people that have done interviews that from Seattle or
Yeah.
DC or someplace, and maybe we could ask them.
So now we're gonna open up another can of worms.
I'm
this
gonna
is
have to
this is
open up
a
my
worm-eaten
bladder soon. I
episode.
gotta use the restroom soon.
Yes. So let's try to wrap this up shortly, but I will give everybody something to ponder.
Okay.
And so I am very much anti-elitist, anti-gatekeeping, anti-judgmental in terms of everything in my life.
Mhm.
When you observe from the outside these other communities, places that have had like historically popular big scenes, your Brooklyns, your Chicagos, your LAs, one of the things that I can't help but notice is that a lot of those communities have been a little bit particular about who they choose to elevate and who they choose to allow to even get on a stage.
Mm-hmm.
There
Very
is
much so.
gatekeepingness. There is
Yes.
elitism to the degree where it's like, sure, there are these little pockets of bands you've never heard of, but then there's also these like all these crazy bands that come out of these scenes. And it's because it's like, I think a lot of those communities aren't as kind to just letting everybody do whatever. The promoters aren't just putting anybody on a stage.
Mhm.
They're very picky. They're very particular, very curated.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, well, maybe there is something that we could do to be a little bit more particular about who we're allowing to be on, who we're allowed to, like, who we're giving stage time to. Are these bands, everybody deserves to be on a stage, right? But if you have 20 bands that want to play a show and there's only space for 3 or 4 bands, it's like, who do you pick, to
You
do
pick
this
the ones
stuff?
that earn that.
Yeah. So go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
Go to the bathroom.
But
You know,
this is a business move.
You definitely
But-
pick the bands that have earned that spot. But you also got to give a shot to these fucking people too, man.
And that's the thing is like, there's spaces for those bands to come up. There's spaces for bands to cut their teeth.
Yeah.
There are those venues. And I think where some bands start to get frustrated and almost jaded is whenever they can't elevate past the cutting teeth venues.
Mhm.
But like, they've been doing it for 10 years.
Mhm.
And it's like, it's still like the best shows that we could play are like Roboto or Club Cafe or like one of these venues that maybe when we were starting, we were like, wow, I can't believe that I'm playing a show here.
Yeah.
But then a decade passes and it's like, why hasn't this grown? And I don't know. I just think that there is, to some degree, if you want to be judgmental, there is kind of like, there is like a lot of showcasing of maybe from a critical standpoint, mediocre art, which is what keeps, I think, outside people away.
Yeah.
Because it's like, for me, I don't give a shit if a band isn't that good if they're good people. Because my idea of what is good or bad doesn't really matter. If it's like, oh, well, like, I know this band, I know these people personally, I know that they give a fuck about what they're doing, and I'm just enjoying seeing them share their art with the world.
Be who they are.
It doesn't need to be great.
No.
But for like outside people that don't know you personally, they don't know your band, they don't understand the community, they're just there to see the show.
Yeah.
It's like, well, why the fuck is this band playing this show?
How many times have we actually heard that in the crowd too?
Yeah.
I mean, I've heard that, like, why the fuck are these guys playing with them? I'm like,
well, that's a big part of the reason why I get really bent out of shape with a lot of the bigger promoters that will do like the shows at big venues, and they get the bands to sell the tickets and open up the shows, right? There's very, very rarely is there actual curation in that process. It's just like, hey, you're somewhat adjacent and you're saying that you'll sell these tickets.
Right.
So cool, we'll put you on the show.
Right.
Now there's a band that's playing, I don't know, at Mr. Small's theater in front of 900 fucking people. And they are the local representative of every band in that genre for the city that night, whether they realize it or not, whether the venue promoters realize it or not. And they're doing a huge disservice to the local scene by just putting a junk band on there because they said that they could sell the 50 tickets.
Right.
And it's not uncommon for those bands to maybe sell 10 of those tickets and pull $300 out of their pocket just because they want the spot.
Right.
It's not doing anybody a favor besides the promoter, because it's helping cover their guarantee for the fucking headliner.
Yeah.
Right.
It's so when I start talking about like being like a little like gatekeepy with things, like on that degree, you need to be curating people.
Yeah.
And there's definitely people that like don't deserve to have that opportunity. There are space
Yet.
That's been going back when you stepped outside.
Yeah.
There are spaces for those bands to cut their teeth. There are stages that exist for that, but so many people just want to skip the steps.
Yeah.
You know, it's like I've seen it so many times where it's like a band that I've never heard of that I know is a young band. It's like, oh, hey, we're opening up with these crazy bands and come get tickets. And it's like, it's cool that you have that opportunity, but like low key, it just kind of sucks that the only reason you have that is because you told the promoter that you would.
You could sell 50 tickets.
That you could sell 50 tickets versus the promoter being like, oh, hey, we need a local opener. We're confident that this show is going to sell well, though. So we're just going to put you on this show and we're going to throw you $100 to play.
Yeah.
Because I've seen that happen too. Grey Walker's been on both sides of the spectrum of that, where it's like, you know, band comes through town, promoter friend messages me, is like, hey, do you guys want to play the show? We need an opener. We'll pay you $200. Awesome.
Yeah.
They're not worried about the show. They know that the show's going to do good. But then you get on the flip where it's like, we need to get people in this door. And then that opens up a whole nother fucking Pandora's box of like, well, why are these shows even getting booked if they can't sell themselves? And then you start getting into the red tape of booking agencies that manage multiple artists. And let's say like, oh, hey, I'm a booking agent and I manage Slipknot, using a very extreme example. I manage Slipknot and I will let you book Slipknot in Pittsburgh. But you're also going to book these 10 other local, you're going to find shows for these other bands if you want the good ones. So that's how you end up with all of these nothing burger shows at like the fucking Craft House Bar and Grill on a Wednesday night that they can barely get 40 people to show up to.
Right.
It's all the politics of booking and promoting, shaking hands, doing deals, help me out here and I'll help you out here. And like from a business side of things, they all seem to be fine. But from a community side of things, it doesn't help anything from the arts perspective.
So
thank you for that insight, because I had no idea that was a thing.
Oh yeah,
like,
baby.
Like people are like, we'll give you Kendrick Lamar, but we're gonna, you know, you're gonna book all these people. That feels really disingenuous, but that also feels like what we're doing as a community then is even more important. And maybe that's what's going to bring people from outside in, because if more people knew that, they'd know they're getting fucked over.
Yeah, I mean, it's just I mean, it's, there's always good intention, and it's like any band that's trying to like cut their teeth on the road and needs to get like local support to open up for them. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Well, the only thing that bothers me is that like from the promoter side of things, it's okay, sure, you have a band that nobody's ever heard of from fucking Chicago playing at the Craft House on a Wednesday. Okay. You have two options here. It's like, sure, if you just get some bands from high school to sell tickets to their parents and stuff like that, like nobody shows up at the show, but the bills are paid.
Yeah.
It still doesn't look good. Is it that fucking hard to go out of your way to try to stay somewhat aware in the music scene to find a band that can actually maybe pull in 40 people on a Wednesday?
They need help.
Yeah.
They need help.
And I get it because like there's no money to go around in these production companies, and as far as like local talent scouting goes, it's like one or two people max managing maybe 60 to 100 shows a month.
That's true.
So good luck. That's why they end up doing like sending out the email things, just like local support needed, and then it's just like whoever emails back, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Every once in a while there are some like booking agents that will like approve or disapprove like opening support acts, but I think it's pretty tame in terms of like what they're actually looking for. I think it's just like, oh hey, like we're just gonna go on your Instagram or your Spotify and make sure you're actually like a metal band or a hip hop band, so you don't wind up with something like
confusing to the crowd.
Confusing, or like sometimes like people could be kind of trolly. Where it's like, oh hey, like we're the heavy metal band and we want to open up for, I don't know, like whatever, like some like defunct MySpace era hip hop artist at Jurgles because we think it would be funny.
Because it would be funny. I see what you're saying.
It would not be funny.
Yeah, but it doesn't. So I think there's a lot of like you got to kind of like
suss.
You got to
suss that out. But there's so much that goes to it, and like that's the thing is like do you want to be a part of that world?
No. No, I would no.
Yeah.
No. At one point maybe, but no.
Just because you didn't know.
Because I was
you didn't know yet. You looked at it as something. It was served to you as something. You just didn't.
I guess
know.
so. Yeah, I guess I was naive.
You didn't know what the recipe was.
Yeah.
But you knew that, and flavor looked really delicious.
Yeah.
But you had no idea that it was.
That's
what's in the hot
really
dog.
That's really helpful. Wiener. That's really helpful insight. But yeah, man. I guess we are very fortunate to be able to do what we are doing with the WWB thing and continue it.
And the YEP is sponsoring this year,
it,
which they did not last year.
Another like last little story that I could share without saying any names is
it's your podcast. You can say whatever the fuck you want.
I've known one particular band that blew up very organically. Like my band had played shows with them in the small DIY spaces, and they started to get onto doing tours and growing organically, getting signed bigger and bigger and bigger, right? And I think a threshold happened for them where it was like once they passed the ceiling, it's like now they were having a really hard time keeping up with everything. And like I know for a fact that they were actually making more money and doing better socially in like the underground sphere. And then when they broke onto the thing that now they're the supporting bands for like huge tours all over the world, now it's like, well, we're not in control of ourselves in the way that we used to be, and like everything became lost, and their sound became lost in a lot of ways, and now they're not even a fucking band. So it's like it just crashed and burned. And I think it was because like there was this perpetual like instead of like stopping on the mountain and being like, you know what, the view looks good from here, let's fucking just post here and ride this out. They had one to keep climbing to the top. And like that might not even just be them, because once you start getting to the point where you're like in a boardroom setting with people, it's like, oh, we think it would be really good if this person produced your record, or if you did this, if you went on this tour. And it's like, of course, I mean, who doesn't want to
Right. Have Brian
be
Eno.
in fucking Europe touring with whoever,
Right.
like that seems insane, right?
Yeah.
But like,
But
then
organically, it's incorrect.
when they're not on tour, it's like they're all living in a house together as 30-somethings, no actual life or identity of their own, and doing everything that they can just to try to keep this thing afloat. It's like on the surface, to us, it looks like they have all these crazy opportunities. But the reality of it is like they're not even in control of their own fucking ship anymore. They're almost just kind of puppets because, their art has now, whether they realize it or not, gave up themselves to be a part of this machine.
Their
and the
art's
machine just chewed them up and spit them out.
It's been monopolized.
Yeah.
It grew faster than they were a part of.
And it would have been, in the long run, hindsight is 2020.
Yeah.
Right.
But it would have been so much better for them just to stay,
How does she
I guess,
know that?
big fish, small pond. But for some people, it's not enough. That's even saying that even like diminishes it because like small pond makes it feel like, no, there was a lot of value, I think, in what they were doing. But that's just one story. And
it's one just one story. It's one lesson
with a whole group of people.
We have
that have
no
their
idea.
own lives that we don't know that well.
Right. Yeah.
I'm even telling this story with my like
Third
somewhat
person.
inside baseball knowledge from an outsider perspective.
Right.
I hear you.
So,
right.
But it's just those things that like you hear over time and you start to become like, it's just something to be aware of.
Yeah.
Knowledge is power.
To keep that in mind when you're like
when you're growing
forward and when you're growing.
Stay connected to the growth, and you won't end up being
and yourself and your community, the people that fuck with you.
Yeah.
But I don't know. For some people, it's just enough is never enough.
I understand that.
Yeah.
And we were raised in that. We're America, goddammit.
Yeah.
We will churn out the entire globe in order to have some type of momentum that we have no idea is a short game thing. That's how is our culture. So stay connected.
Yep.
Keep trying to connect outside of your comfort zone. Be connected to your comfort zone.
Yeah.
Keep engaging with them. Don't write them off as soon as some opportunity, which you see as an opportunity because you've never experienced it before, that looks bigger, but it's just the same fucking bullshit, just on a grander scale.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm learning even through this conversation. I'm making shit up just to try and find something so that I could watch this next year and be like, yeah, right.
Yeah,
now we're here.
Yeah,
let's take that lesson.
There's always opportunity everywhere. I think it's just, for me, this isn't the right answer for everybody, but for me, it's just like, it's so much easier to be like, oh, I'm afraid to say yes to things, but now I'm afraid to say no to things. Just say yes to things. And also, I trust myself as an artist. I trust myself as a person. And I need to like keep in mind that like, hey, your first idea, the thing that excites you at its core, is usually the best idea.
Yes.
Don't take a good idea and overwork it. So now this dough won't even proof and you're going to bake a shitty loaf of bread, right?
Yeah.
Shit loaf.
Just
shit loaf.
First idea is best idea. Always say yes. Always be kind.
Yeah.
And then,
Always
if there's people in your circle that take advantage of you, be mindful of it. Also, I'm not afraid to not give anybody second chances anymore.
Yeah.
It's just like, hey, I've been alive long enough. I know how people can be. And if this isn't my energy, then
I'm
goodbye.
not fucking with you.
I don't need to back to like those doors that I can knock on.
Yeah.
People that have tried to knock on my door to take advantages of opportunities that I know I have, and I see what they're doing, and I'm just like, sorry, no.
Yeah. That's healthy.
Yeah. It's
There's
not,
power
I don't care.
Well, then we feel even more fortunate to be back on here.
Dig it. Yeah.
Totally, dude.
Yeah, brother.
Yeah. Really do.
No, I appreciate you guys. I respect you guys. I respect your band. I respect you both as human beings. I respect you as peers. And regardless of if you've been a band for 3 years and I've been in a band for fucking 1,000 years, it doesn't fucking matter. We're sitting at the same table. This is it.
Yeah, this is it.
As a community, as a music scene, we're all at the same fucking table.
Yes.
If this was high school, we would have all sat at the same lunch table together.
Easily.
So fuck it. Like, let's just keep that in mind. We are friends. We are homies. And like, there's going to be people that don't get it.
What's the
And
band
that's
you
fine.
would carve into the lunch table?
Oh, right now,
Like
in
right
life,
now,
or
like,
just-
yeah. When you're there, what was the band that you would carve into the lunch table?
Oh, probably Corn. The backwards
Corn,
R
the
is
Corn.
hard.
All right, nice,
yeah.
nice. Either Slayer or Faith No More for me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mine would have been the Love Sexy Symbol Prince. Because people would have been like, what the fuck is that? Or like, that's right.
Oh no, we would have known.
No, they would have judged it.
Oh,
And you'd be like,
no,
man, if
no.
you don't know.
No, we would have known. It would have been respected for sure. Still is.
Dig it.
Yeah.
Well, we have crossed the 2-hour mark.
Holy shit!
Beautiful.
When was the last time you did a
Oh,
2-hour
double
podcast?
episode.
I'm not sure.
It's a double vinyl. Double vinyl.
Yeah, it's a double gatefold, baby. I don't keep track.
All right.
But it's been a good conversation.
That's been a great
Thank
one,
you.
a
man.
healthy conversation.
Yeah, real healthy.
And I am more than willing to still vibe and chill and chat some more.
Dope.
Mics off, cameras off.
Dig it.
But I think for the population at large, I'm
They're
sure
done.
that
They're
100,
done.
100 120 minutes of us is.
Yeah.
We need to save some
Without
energy
Matt
so they still want
Pinfield.
to come to
All right.
Winter Wonder Ball.
Wasn't
Oh,
Matt
all right.
Pinfield 120 minutes? Like,
I
was
think
that?
they had several hosts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
so
So without being Matt Pinfield, the 120 minutes is enough.
Yeah.
Can
so,
Can I
what,
do it real quick?
what do you want?
Cool. Winter Wonder Ball, December 21st, held at Spirit Hall, featuring Zinnia's Garden, Abstract Theory, Animal Sound, and Dream the Heavy, hosted by Brian Sykes Howe, multimedia by Shellshock Multimedia, prom pictures by Ava Grace Pictures. It's going to be presented by WYEP. Micha Tapes is going to do visuals. We have vendors, Electric Cat, Death's Head Divination, Ritual Chains, and the Patchouli Charmer Tattoos by Jessica Jordan. Get your tickets now. We can do all that. It's all ages. It's all inclusive. If you don't want to pay fees, just hit us up on Instagram.
Dig it.
We have physical tickets. We would rather hand you a ticket than see it come through Eventbrite. Sorry, Eventbrite. We don't want to give you money. We want to. We want to do this ourselves. So thank you for allowing me to do
Yeah.
that real quick. I
Come have
apologize
fun
for
with us.
interrupting.
And
Yeah,
this has been so much fun.
this is dope.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. A good hang.
Yeah, I always enjoy seeing you guys.
Yeah,
always enjoys chopping it up and chatting.
Dig it.
It's unfortunate that it's always in a position where some sort of content is being produced or a show is being
Mhm.
produced.
Whatever gets us here.
But
Come by and hang out.
yeah, we'll
Mhm.
figure that out
Yeah, we will.
later.
Yeah, dude, come have a studio hang.
So until next time, that is all, folks. Thanks so much for being here. One more time, Dream the Heavy. Make some.
Much love.
I'll be back
Thank
again
you.
next week. Same time, same place, same channel, different ding dongs. My name is Brian
Ding
Sykes
dongs.
House.
We were good ding dongs.
Start the Beat is the podcast. 2024 is the year. And until next time, take care of yourselves. Take care of the people around you. Peace out. And we did it. That was a podcast.
Wow, that was so great.
Holy shit.
Woo! I loved it. I
That
had
was
such a
fucking
great
awesome,
time.
man.
Thank you.
Oh,
My friends. No, I didn't know that was 2 hours.
I had no idea that was 2 fucking hours.
That's the sign of a good hang, man.
I'm gonna go hit
No
the head on
idea. Oh, yeah.